Okay, so we've taken a look at creating high resolution detail by modeling or sculpting and actually adding it to the high poly so that it comes in on the bake. So now we're going to look at an alternate method of adding in those details, and this is going to be doing it straight through Substance Painter. So what we're going to do is create a new, and we're going to grab our low, pull that in as we always do. And I'm always going to remind you this every single time because it will be something you tend to forget now and again. So even though this thing is a very low, very hard edge object, it doesn't look that way, and that's because we brought it in correctly. We've done a smooth modifier on it so that every single angle it's trying desperately to make it look smooth, so we get this extra black where we don't need it, and it looks inherently wrong. And if we see it looking like that, that means we've exported our low correctly, because the baking process is it deciding where those hard edges are. And if we bring it in with those ugly razor sharp edges, it is going to not only bake the high poly, it's also going to assume that you want to preserve those razor sharp edges, which we do not. So yeah, probably going to go into that every single time that I show you how to do this stuff, just because it is something that you can easily forget to do. And if you leave it that way, it's going to show up in the end, and it is going to just make your model look a lot less cool than it could be, because you've done all of the right things leading up to this. So even though we're creating the detail in Substance Painter, we do still have the high poly that we created the slight bevel in, so we can get rid of those edges and we can kind of allow it to have those nice edges. And so we're just going to let this bake. And we can see that everything's okay because it's actually putting some nice shadows in there. It's showing us our curvature. And it's bringing in all that edge detail. It's giving us the flat portions where we want flash portions. And we're good to go. So we got our thickness, and okay. There we go. Okay, so just to cover this for the millionth time. So brought in this way, we've got our nice edges here. It is still very much a hard surface object, but we don't have the infinitely razor sharp. We have some nice slightly beveled edges that you can't actually see until you zoom right in, which is exactly what we're looking for. Otherwise, the whole baking process is just kind of pointless if you don't put that on in the first place. There, so enough of that. So what we're going to be covering is how to use both height and normal maps to give us the illusion of depth that will, once we bake out the textures, will be embedded in our normal maps. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a very incredibly basic paint job on this thing. And it's going to be very basic, but just also serve as kind of a reminder on how to do this. So boom, and then I fill it with red. It's going to be relatively shiny. I've got no height information and no normal information. I'm leaving the metal on just so when I add metal chips to it, it knows that it should be not metal to start with. Grabbing another basic layer, don't need normal, don't need metal or height. And this is going to be just a dirt level. I want to add it so it's kind of a brown with no roughness. Adding the black mask, adding the generator to the mask, and calling it dirt. And I'm going to go straight with default because, like I say, this is just quick and dirty just to give us some examples. And then our next is going to be some chipped paint. So we do want this to be metal. I'm going to have it relatively shiny. Normal, height, don't need. Adding the black, adding the generator, and choosing our metal edge. And there we go. So quickly we've got a decent enough material set up for this. So in the next video, I'm going to show you how to set up the height and normal details, and then we'll get those anchored in and actually doing what they need to do.